Stop laughing. I can't. For our listeners, I am actually legitimately excited for this movie. I do like the Despicable Me franchise. I had this whole thing that I planned on saying, but it's ruined now. Because Tyler won't stop laughing at me. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nerd You're Looking For podcast, a bi-weekly podcast that discusses pretty much all of nerd culture through various segments. My name is Patrick Kuhn, alongside my co-host as always, that Tyler Hunt. How's it going, man?
It's going really good. How are you?
I'm pretty exhausted. Today's been kind of a nightmare of a day. Just got off a 10-hour shift. But you know what got me through it? Thinking about how awesome this episode's going to be. I've been really looking forward to recording, just talking about nerdy stuff.
Great way to set the bar high. I'm pretty tired too, so this could be a really boring episode where we're just like, all right, what's
yawning
next?
the whole time. Yeah. Let's just get this over with. No, I've been really looking forward to it all day, and it kind of got me through a really shitty day because I was just like, yeah, well, at 9 o'clock I get to go home and I get to record. So I've been definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. Not to spoil anything, but I'm sure it's in the title. We're going to talk about our top 5 anticipated summer movies. And this was one of my favorite episodes we recorded last year. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then, of course, whenever it's all said and done, we'll do our top 5 summer movies and see how our list kind of compared. So
yeah, we'll do that in September because that's the end of the summer.
Yeah, that's what I fucking said. when it's all said and done. Yeah. AKA September.
No, I just thought you were going to bust my balls again because
I'll bust your balls here in a little bit when we get into the rules.
Yeah, but it's pretty exciting because we officially have our first YouTube channel. It's up there, and checked off a Nerd Year's resolution pretty early, so I'm happy with it. So yeah, that was exciting.
Yeah, I've watched one of your videos. I haven't watched.
Well, I posted 3, so.
But I'd like to eventually get to posting content on there as well. So, of course, if it goes as well as me posting content on the site goes, we'll see. Yeah. But I don't know. I like videos. They're fun. They're easier than typing up a huge article or whatever. So, I could see me posting stuff on there. So it could be a cool little, piece of content we have. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah. We could always use some subscribers there. So definitely, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Where can you find that YouTube page at, Pat?
I don't know the URL off the top of my head. Thanks calling me out.
The name of the channel is The Nerd You're Looking For.
Oh, yeah, of course.
If you search that, you'll find it. That's how I found it. So.
All right, cool.
All right, man. You ready to dive into this?
Yeah, for sure. If this is your first episode, we appreciate you checking us out. We start off every episode by just kind of checking in. Tyler and I, unfortunately, don't get to have these nerdy conversations all that often, so we just kind of like to check in with each other. We call it What We're Into. So, Tyler, what are you into this episode?
So, the last few weeks since we last spoke, the hit television series Game of Thrones has come back on the air.
Yes, it has.
And I'm a huge fan of this show, so that's what I'm going to talk about. Actually, it's kind of funny. Right around whenever the first episode was coming out, apparently the first 4 episodes of this season, like they send out screeners to people who do reviews. All of those leaked online, and I've really shown a lot of self-control, and I've only watched the 2 episodes that have actually shown on HBO. So I'm not as far ahead as I could be if I were to do things illegally. But I am as far ahead as anybody who watches it legally is. So not too much.
So basically you want our listeners to pat you on the back for doing the right thing.
Pretty much. I'm basically Daredevil when it comes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the Daredevil of watching Game of Thrones.
Pretty much.
I won't get into plot specifics because I know there's people who don't want to know anything about it and don't want to be spoiled. Those of us that don't, or those of you that don't have HBO and wait for the Blu-ray release or whatever. And so I won't get into that, but nothing monumental, but it's just such a good show and it's so enjoyable to watch that it doesn't have to have something monumental each episode. It's just nice to sit back and watch how all of these stories play out and sometimes interweave, I guess. Especially, there's a couple of huge storylines that are getting ready to intersect, which is going to be really awesome if it comes to fruition. I'm not too incredibly familiar with the books, so I don't know what ends up happening, but I'm really looking forward to this season for sure. Have you seen the first 2 episodes?
Yeah, I mentioned, I think it was last episode when I talked about last week tonight with John Oliver. I just got HBO for free the first 3 months of my DirecTV. I got it for free, so I've been keeping up with Game of Thrones. It's one of my favorite shows on TV. So I think I pretty much agree with what you said. They haven't been super eventful. I'll try to stay away from spoilers, but if you're a big Jon Snow fan, you'll like the first 2 episodes if you haven't already watched them yet.
Have you watched more than the first 2 episodes?
No, because I have HBO.
Oh, all right, man. So what are you into this week?
Well, I am into, and I will try to keep one of the things I want to talk about brief. I just recently posted our first actually video of the YouTube channel. I posted an unboxing of the special edition of the Babadook and the standard edition of Mortal Kombat X. I'm going to review both of those on our website in a couple of weeks. So that's why I want to keep it brief. I'm going to talk about Mortal Kombat X, just my initial thoughts of it. Pretty much since it came out the 14th of April, I was just wearing it out. That's pretty much all I've been doing. I've really enjoyed it so far. I've been playing it since I was a kid, the franchise since I was a kid, which I think tells you more about my parents than it does anything else. And I think for the most part, this has got to be one of the best games that they put out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of the franchise, so that's saying a lot. There's just so much in this game. That's probably why it's going to take me a couple of weeks to really review it, because I just want to really get into all of the aspects of the game. One thing that they added for this particular title that I don't think they've ever had anything like this before is they have a thing called the Faction War. Yeah. It's nothing major, but basically what it is, when you start the game, you pick a faction. And since you have to be online to play most of this game anyways, every time you play, no matter what you're doing, you get faction war points.
Yeah.
And so your faction, and they have certain like contests and certain battles and stuff. And basically you get rewarded if your faction wins an event or whatever. So it's just kind of another way to get you playing the game. Just another incentive to want to continue playing the game. So I think that's cool. It's the competitive part of me wants my faction to win on all of these events. So I'm constantly playing. I'm trying to get my faction to win. We haven't yet, but I've been doing my part. So that's all I can say. One thing that I wanted to bring up, and it's nothing new with this franchise. It's always kind of been known for being brutal.
Yeah.
Very gory and bloody. It kind of made its name being that type of game. But this game, and I don't know if it's because video games in general, as we've gone on and they've gotten more advanced, they've also gotten a lot more gory and dark. And I think Mortal Kombat being that game that you kind of point to as being the goriest game, I felt like they might have felt pressure to kind of step up their game. It's really, really brutal. But like I said, I've played it my entire life, so I'm kind of used to it. I was playing it the other day, and my wife was sitting in the living room with me, and she was just kind of on her iPad, and I wasn't paying any attention to what she was doing. I was playing at Kung Lao, and if you're not familiar, he basically has this huge hat, and it has a blade on the end of it. How he doesn't cut his hand off when he catches it, I have no idea. But basically, he uses it as a boomerang. And one of his fatalities is he throws it on the ground and it like spins like a table saw, and he like curb stomps the person's head into the hat, and it cuts the head, like just splits it down the middle. And so you can see the person's brain like hanging out. And I mean, I'm used to it because I've just seen all of these crazy fatalities through the years and the previous games. And so I'm playing a tower. I'm just going, and I've done it a few times already. And I'm moving right along, and all of a sudden I do the fatality, and I literally hear my wife gasp next to me, and I look at her, and she's like deer in the headlights, like her hands over her mouth. And I was like, what? I was like, this is Mortal Kombat. What do you expect? She's like, how is this a game? And I just thought it was pretty funny. I mean, the game's always been known to be brutal, but I just thought it was funny, and it's kind of extra brutal, this time around. I'm really enjoying it. That was a little bit, longer than I was planning on, talking about Mortal Kombat X, but basically I've been really jacked for the franchise because this game's so good. And so I've been trying to consume everything I can Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So I made the mistake of rewatching both of the movies.
Nice.
And for some reason, and maybe it was just because I was really young when I first saw it, but I remember the second movie being better than the first movie.
Yeah.
And I was way off. The second movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It is just god awful. The story makes no sense. It's just, the special effects are bad. I mean, you could tell that their budget got super cut. There's literally a scene. This is not even the worst part of the movie, but I just thought it was funny because it was the first time I noticed this. There's literally a part where Liu Kang is fighting Baraka, and he knocks him down, and Baraka falls into a fire pit.
Yeah.
And earlier in the movie, there was a scene where Shao Kahn knocks somebody else into the fire pit. I'm pretty sure that they just cut the first guy falling into the pit when Baraka is supposed to fall into the pit. Because if you go real slow, it just happens really quickly. But if you do it super mo, you could tell it's definitely not Baraka. I don't know if it's the first guy, if they just cut a different angle of him falling in after Baraka, but it's definitely not Baraka. And I just thought it was funny. It's really bad. But I still have really high hopes for the franchise. I think they could do a movie kind of like Christopher Nolan did with Batman Begins, kind of and Batman doesn't necessarily have a ton of supernatural aspects to it, but the way he took Batman and made it so grounded. I think that if you took Mortal Kombat and took most of the supernatural aspects of it, you could make a really solid movie. Now, of course, it's inherently kind of silly, but I think if you ground it as much as you physically can, I think you could make a solid movie out of it. Have you ever watched Mortal Kombat Legacy?
Is that the digital show?
Yeah, it's the web series.
I saw the pilot episode.
It is really, really good.
I heard it maintained quality.
Yeah, there's a few episodes here and there that are kind of silly, but like I said, I think Mortal Kombat, the gist of it is kind of inherently silly. So I think these guys that did this web series try to ground it as much as physically possible. And they did a really awesome job. They built some really cool characters. The fight scenes were awesome. The only problem, and it's just a small problem, because it's a web series, there's two seasons. The first season is really just backstory. And then the second season is the first tournament. Well, I guess they couldn't get the actors from the first season. A lot of them are different in the second season, but they're playing the same characters.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit jarring at first, but then you kind of get past it. And the second season is really good.
Is it?
Yeah. I think they lost an opportunity though to do the movie. I think it would have been really cool to kind of have that first season as the backstory. So you wouldn't have to do an origin, from the beginning of the movie and just kind of jump off from there. Instead of doing the second season as a tournament, you could have just done the movie, the tournament. And I think it would have been really solid, but I guess they're still trying to do a movie based on Mortal Kombat Legacy, but I don't know. It's kind of one of those movies. I think it's kind of in production hell. So we'll see. The guy that made Mortal Kombat Legacy was set to direct the movie. Now I think it was in 2013, he dropped out. So who knows if it'll ever be made, but I think it's definitely a franchise that could be good if they kind of went the Mortal Kombat Legacy route and actually made it as grounded as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I would see that movie for sure. I enjoy fighting games, but I enjoy them for 3 hours, and then I get burnt out on them pretty quick. So I definitely respect Mortal Kombat, and I've played my fair share of Mortal Kombat games, but it's not something that I could justify springing the $60 for right now, and then just, playing it for a few hours and putting it away.
All right, so our next segment is just plainly titled Comics. Tyler and I spotlight a comic that we've been reading the last couple of weeks. So Tyler, what do you want to talk about this week?
So I have to cheat a little bit this week, even though I have a stack of comics I haven't read as high as I am tall. I have been really busy the last couple of weeks with work, and last weekend actually I went to Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask you. How was that?
Oh, it was a blast. It was like a religious retreat. It was. Oh yeah. It opened it opened my eyes. It didn't open my eyes to God. It opened my eyes.
I was gonna say that was a weird way to describe a trip to Vegas.
It opened my eyes to booze and debauchery. Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's one of those trips I think I would like to take every year just for a couple days. I think too many days and you would get burnt out on everything. But I think 3 days is maybe enough.
Where'd you guys stay?
The Mirage.
Oh, nice. That's a nice one.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think the first day we didn't even leave the hotel. I mean, there's restaurants and gambling and there's so much to do.
It's ridiculous. I actually, for those that don't know, I lived in Vegas for a while.
Yeah.
It was funny because I went to a casino in New York, New York State, not the city. And it was weird because I took my wife and I was like, oh, well, we'll gamble for a while. Then we'll go bowling or go see a movie or something like that. She's like, that's going to be in the casino. I was like, oh yeah, the casinos have all the, cause I'm so used to Vegas. It was literally a casino in a hotel. There was nothing else to do. I'm so used to those hotels that are just everything.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you some of the other stories off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Off air. It was for a bachelor party, but no, it was a lot of fun. But anyways, being out of town like that and not really reading comics in Las Vegas, I haven't read a whole lot that I want to talk about. But luckily for me, there was a news story that broke today that I thought I could kind of throw in the place of talking about a comic. And that is the announcement of a comic that's going to come out, I believe, this fall. And that is The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race has been officially announced. So this will be written by Frank Miller, and it will be the conclusion of his Dark Knight trilogy, which started with The Dark Knight Returns, and then the second installment's The Dark Knight Strikes Back. I mean, I've read The Dark Knight Returns, and many people regard it as one of the best comics ever written, which I agree with. It's really great stuff, and it's kind of at the forefront of everyone's mind now with the Batman versus Superman stuff, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Dark Knight Strikes Back, it was not critically acclaimed, and I own it, but I haven't read it yet just because I don't know what I'm going to be getting myself into. And, I don't know. I don't know what to think of this third installment. I'm looking forward to it. They released a little bit of art with it, and it's Batman perched on a ledge, and his hand is kind of covered in blood a little bit, and it kind of bleeds into a Superman logo behind his arm, which is kind of cool. But I don't know how this is going to pan out necessarily because Batman's old as shit in The Dark Knight Returns. And here we are in the third installment. Like, is he using a walker at this point? And I don't know. I need to read The Dark Knight Strikes Back before I judge too much. But Frank Miller is such a great comic book writer. His Daredevil stuff is amazing. His Batman stuff's amazing. He's had a couple things that are hit or miss. Like, he wrote a comic called All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder. And Jim Lee was the artist behind that. So you had like these two powerhouse names paired up, and it really was weird. Batman's like almost a psychopath in it. And like, it's basically the story of Batman rescuing Robin and like that whole origin story and him, Dick Grayson becoming Robin. And Batman's like an insane person. It's a really surreal book. I'll let you borrow it sometime maybe if you're interested in reading it. But it's at one point in that story, he goes, "I'm the goddamn Batman," and that's where that kind of originated. But we'll see how this pans out. Hey, Frank Miller lately, it seems like he's been more interested in movies. Like he had his hand in both Sin City movies, and he did The Spirit. But I'd really like to see him get back into comics because that kind of seems like it's his bread and butter. Yeah, like, that's for sure. Where he really excels. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to pick it up and read it. I need to read The Dark Knight Strikes Back before that, though. Yeah,
so do I. In the same exact boat as you. I've read The Dark Knight Returns. I agree. It's probably one of the best comics ever written. I put Year One up there as well.
Oh, I actually love Year One more than Dark Knight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's my favorite comic of all time would be Year One.
Yeah. I have not read, what's it called?
The Dark Knight Strikes Back.
That's right. You said it like...
No, not Strikes Back. Strikes Again, I think.
You've said it like a million times. I was listening.
No, it's
I own that as well, and I have not read it yet either. So
Dark Knight Returns ends so weird. Like, I don't think it's really spoilers. It's been out for like 30 years, but they like go underground and they have this army. It's like, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
That's like an interesting Batman story. So I'm guessing that's why it wasn't critically acclaimed, but we'll see. I'll read it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, man. What comic are you into this week?
Well, I'm not necessarily cheating. I've read a lot since the last time we talked. I'm really gearing up for Secret Wars that starts next week.
It starts next week? I didn't realize it was that soon.
Well, I don't know exactly. I know it starts in May.
Yeah.
And May is next week. So I don't know exactly where the first issue or when the first issue gets released. But I mean, it's definitely starting up soon. So I'm trying to run through all of my Marvel stuff that's going to end. Like Guardians is going to end. Amazing X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. All of that is ending. I mean, I read more Marvel than that, but those are the main titles that I'm trying to get through before Secret Wars.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily have any new releases. We try to keep this to new releases, but the one thing that I did want to talk about is Amazing X-Men, which is ending. Like I said, I think there's 33 titles all that are going to be not necessarily ending, because I think they're going to reimagine a lot of this stuff after Secret Wars. So the books as we know them right now will be ending. I highly doubt that they're going to get rid of Spider-Man and X-Men completely, even though I have been reading some conspiracy theories saying that Marvel hates the X-Men and they're going to replace them with the Inhumans because of the Inhumans movie that's going to be coming out. So there's been a lot of conspiracy theories about that, but that's what pretty much all the internet is. So I try not to get lost in too much of that kind of talk. But anyways, like I said, I want to kind of spotlight Amazing X-Men. I've read through number 18. I believe number 19 got released this past Wednesday, but I have a pull list with Midtown, and so I get it like a week after it comes out. So I haven't gotten 19 yet. The storyline that they just finished up, the story arc, was called The Once and Future Juggernaut, which is a villain I really enjoy. I think he's really interesting. He definitely does have a lot of supernatural aspects to him. I mean, basically, if you get the gem, you become Juggernaut. And so they kind of rehash a lot of his origin in this particular story arc. The reason I like it is I just kind of like the idea of anybody becoming the Juggernaut. And basically, if you're already a mutant, you kind of have the Juggernaut's power, but you also have your own power. Like, this particular story arc, I won't give away too much because it's not a huge spoiler. The living monolith, I believe his name is, becomes Juggernaut, and he's like 50 feet tall, and it's kind of interesting. The thing that I really liked about this story arc was the fact that they're all kind of caught in this temple, and it's really chaotic. Like, they don't know what they're doing, and they're just fighting a bunch of different groups. All these different villains are coming to try to get the gem, and it's chaotic, and it makes for a really interesting story. So I enjoyed that. And there's the X-Men, how do I describe it? The X-Men kind of have this really interesting plan. When the living monolith becomes the Juggernaut, he kind of like walks away trying to destroy things, and he's assuming that the X-Men are going to follow him and like try to fight him, and that's what he wants. And so they kind of just chill out. They're like, yeah, he'll come back. He'll get real bored and he'll come back. And I just thought it was really interesting. All in all, it's a really good comic. I've talked about it before, and I'm kind of a little sad that it'll be ending. I think it's one of the better Marvel titles out there. It's weird, but I liked it a lot.
No, you just summed it up for me exactly. I really like the Amazing X-Men, and I'm a little bit further behind than the Juggernaut story. But I remember when this comic came out, they did the storyline with, them going to heaven and hell to
that was
get
really
Nightcrawler back. And I was like, oh, that's really fucking weird. And they've kind of told some weirder stories throughout the run, but it's been really cool stuff, and I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm disappointed to see it go as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how they kind of, I don't know if reimagine is the best word, but just kind of, they're not going to completely do away with the X-Men. I think Fantastic Four is going to be dead for a while. I think that's going to be ending. And we've talked about that with the new movie coming out and they want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're not going to do away with Guardians and they'll figure out some way to bring them back as well. So I'm interested in seeing what Secret Wars, what's going to happen and how the new characters are going to kind of come out of that big event.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So our next segment is Nerd News, which is pretty much exactly what the title tells you.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss some of the pop culture news that's broke since the last time we recorded, regarding any and all things nerdy. So
I don't think we mentioned this ever, and I've been doing it for like 6 or 7 months now. Every story that we talk about, I post on our website on the Nerd News tab. So if we talk about anything that you're interested in and you want to read the story, like the actual article, check that out. I don't think I've ever pimped that. And that actually does take a lot of work on my part. And I've never actually mentioned that before.
I really could take over that part for you. Like,
yeah, probably.
I present Nerd News every week. So, I mean, you do so much with the editing and everything else. So I could probably take that over.
Yeah, maybe. Anyways, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
So it has been a very eventful 2 weeks.
Yes, it has.
As far as nerd news goes. So some of these stories are pretty quick and we'll run through them pretty quick. And I imagine a couple of them will have a little bit more to say. So let's just dig in. All right. So the Defenders, aka Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones, all the characters are getting their own series on Netflix. You can listen to our last episode where we completely break down the first season of Daredevil, which was amazing. Apparently, they may be making their big screen debut in the Avengers Infinity War movies.
Yeah.
So that's just a rumor. No telling if it's true.
Charlie Cox wants to make a cameo in Civil War. Yeah.
Yeah, which would be so awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
I really think the ship sailed on that though.
Yeah, probably.
But it would be awesome. And I'm excited that we will see these characters cross paths with the big screen, characters. Just because I was such a big fan of Daredevil.
Sure.
And I think that if you do like this high scope story, like Infinity War probably is going to be, you could show more street level stuff. Which is what the Defenders, that's going to be their bread and butter. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's every nerd's dream. Like when you start reading comics and they all interweave with each other, you're like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if they had movies and they all came together in a movie, and it's been a pipe dream for so long, and then all of a sudden it becomes reality, and it's been so awesome. And everybody's talking about how the bubble's gonna burst, and I really just don't see it because they keep making great stories with Daredevil. Marvel's just doing such great work and putting in such care into these characters that I don't see the bubble bursting anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, let's knock out 2 stories at once here.
All right, cool.
Daredevil, obviously, picked up for season 2.
Yep.
Going to come out in the first half of 2016, so probably about this time next year.
Yep.
Which I'm really pumped for. I was afraid that we were going to have to wait more than 1 year for it, just because they're doing Jessica Jones now.
Yeah, Luke Cage.
I thought they were going to go through Luke Cage and Iron Fist first, maybe. But luckily, I think that he's going to run simultaneously or right before or right after one of the other series. So, I'm really looking forward to that next year.
Yeah, definitely. It was a no-brainer.
I'll put in a vacation day as soon as I know when it's going to come out.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, where are we going next? Let's talk about Rogue One. Let's talk about Star Wars Rogue One. So they had Star Wars Celebration last weekend.
Yep.
We'll get to a trailer that was released in just a second, but they also released a teaser for Rogue One, which I actually didn't watch. But they also released the plot synopsis for it. So basically, it's going to be about, quote, a band of resistance fighters unite for a daring mission to steal the Death Star plans in this Star Wars anthology film, end quote. Well, first off, they're going to be calling these side films anthology films, which I think is pretty cool. But that's the plot for the first one. It makes sense. Rogue One, you have all these references to Rogue Leader, Rogue stuff throughout the original Star Wars movies. It makes sense that Rogue One is the original team that steals the Death Star plans. But I think that's a pretty good way to start things off with these anthology films. You know, you have something that's familiar, but it can be different as well. So it kind of differentiates itself. But anything Star Wars, I'm going to look forward to. So
yeah, it just kind of, you know how it ends though.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to take away from it because I think it's going to be interesting and I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's a cool little gap that we haven't got to see. So I'm interested in it, but you know what they're initially going to find and you know that they're going to get the plans. They're going to be able to steal. Like there's not going to be as much tension in the movie. Are they going to get away? Are they going to do? Obviously they get away. Somebody has to.
Yeah.
So, it does kill the drama of that particular film a little bit, but if it's well done, I still think that it could be an interesting film.
Yeah, for sure. As far as I know, the only main cast member that's been announced, I don't think Aaron Paul was rumored at one time, and I don't know if that was ever announced as official or what happened with that, but I know for sure off the top of my head that Felicity Jones is in it.
That's the only person I could think of.
Who I love. And I'm curious as to who she's playing. I'm almost wondering if she plays like a relative to Princess Leia. That would make sense to me. And I don't know. So by the time they steal these Death Star plans, do you know how much time passes between that point and episode 4?
No.
Like how long do they have these Death Star plans before? So you don't know.
I wouldn't think for very long.
Yeah.
Because you would think that if they stole it, it would only be a matter of time before they figured out that they stole it. Or maybe, I don't know, something changes. With the Death Star, I would assume logically that the less time that they had them, the better.
Yeah. Yes. I would imagine they get them and they're on their ship and then immediately the Star Destroyer is like, hey, give that ship back.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dude, what if Darth Vader's in this movie? I just put that together. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, we'll stay on the Star Wars tip of things for a second. And I'm just curious to get your opinion on the new Star Wars trailer. That was a pretty big thing that happened over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I have been kind of slowly making my way into the camp of the people that aren't crazy about trailers. I think they give away way too much. But I thought this particular trailer was really great.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. I think it's kind of had universal acclaim so far. Yeah. It's just been great. It gives you just enough to get you excited, but I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you too. I used to be the guy that sought out every trailer and every TV spot and everything. And the more I feel like Avengers, especially this new Avengers Age of Ultron movie, has put out so much.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I've avoided a lot of it, but I was really hoping I wouldn't see anything concerning the Vision until the movie came out, and they've released pictures and apparently video about his creation, and I didn't watch it, but to me that's a bit ridiculous. But right now we're still so far out from Star Wars that this is just a teaser trailer. It doesn't really give much away about the plot. It just shows you some eye candy and teases you with the things you love. And it almost made me cry a little bit. It was really fun watching it. It gives you all the stuff to reminisce about. And then of course it ends with the shot of Han and Chewie, which is great.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I'm glad that they just tease you with that. I don't want it to be all of the familiar old faces. I want it to be, they're passing the torch a little bit. So,
yeah.
So it needs to be about John Boyega's character, Finn, and, what's the girl's name? I don't remember what the girl's name is, but she's in it quite a bit. And obviously they're going to have a bit of an alliance. And I love Oscar Isaac's scene in it when he's flying the X-Wing.
Oh yeah.
I bet he's going to knock it out of the park too. He's great. So, just an amazing trailer. I've watched it quite a few times.
I've watched it a couple of times. I don't want to get, like I said, I'm not big into trailers. So I've watched it a couple of times and it's great. I like it a lot, but I'm trying to stay. I probably, to be honest with you, won't watch another one for Star Wars.
I don't believe you.
I probably won't.
Because I bet there'll be some in the theater and you'll just, what are you going to do? Close your eyes and close your ears?
Maybe.
What is this
la, 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 la.
What is this guy's problem? He really doesn't like Star Wars. All right, man. We'll keep going. So let's get this next one off our chest. You already did, but I figure it deserves to be talked about again just because it's a big release. So the Batman v Superman trailer came out pretty much the same day that the Star Wars trailer came out. It had been leaked.
Yeah, like it was a day later or something crazy like that.
It had been leaked online, and then I guess Zack Snyder tweeted it out. They just kind of gave in to it, to the hacking, and said, all right, here's the high resolution version of it. Yeah. And you actually posted a video to the YouTube page explaining your thoughts on it. But for those of our listeners that maybe didn't see that video, what do you think?
Yeah, I just went on a miniature rant about how I don't like trailers that much. And then I literally posted a video about what I thought of this particular trailer. I just had a lot to say about it. And I thought the YouTube channel was a good place to kind of put that. I just thought for the first real teaser trailer, I thought they gave away way too much. I mean, this movie is still a year away. Yeah. And you have basically the story. I don't want to say the main plot, but you kind of understand what's going to happen within the story. And it kind of bums me out this early in the game. I mean, I know that they have that kind of pump up this movie and they have a lot of competition with Star Wars trailer and the new Age of Ultron coming out and all this other stuff. So they have a lot to compete with, but at the same time, you still have plenty of time to get this stuff out there. Yeah. I thought it gave away way too much, for just a teaser trailer for it being a year away.
I don't feel that way necessarily. I think that it gave away not a good portion of the plot, but it gave you a good idea of what the plot's going to be, but it didn't give too much imagery away.
Yeah.
Like you don't see Batman and Superman clash or anything. You see them kind of gearing up. You see a good shot of each character, but I think there's going to be a lot more to this movie than that just because Wonder Woman's in it. We didn't see her. Jason Momoa is going to make an appearance in it, and there was nothing with him. You don't see Lex Luthor, you just hear him. So I think that there's a lot to this movie they didn't show, and there's a lot left to kind of discover. But I can see what you mean. You get a really good idea for what the plot's going to be.
Yeah. And that being said, I think that's a good use of the YouTube channel. So I might continue doing that. Just every once in a while, if there's a trailer I watch that just got released that I kind of have a little bit to say about.
Then you'll post a video bitching about it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Or, I mean, I could just talk about how much I loved it. Because I did enjoy aspects of that particular trailer, but I just thought that they gave way too much up.
What do you think about the Batman voice?
I think it's a choice. Yeah, I think I even mentioned that in the video, that it was definitely a different choice. I don't know if I necessarily like it.
I dug it quite a bit.
Really?
Because you have to differentiate yourself from the Christian Bale stuff, and nobody wants a growl or just making your voice deeper. So I thought that it was pretty cool. I don't know. I liked it quite a bit, actually. Now, the more I think about it, it's funny because whenever they announced this movie and stuff, and Kevin Smith was a big Batman fan, and we both listened to his stuff, his podcast. He actually said in a few of his episodes, like, why don't you give him like a voice box or something to where he's changing his voice that way so you don't have to deal with the whole backlash that Christian Bale dealt with. And it sounds like they might have done something similar to that.
Yeah.
You can't even tell it's Ben Affleck's voice.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like a robot to me, and it doesn't sound
like... It kind of sounds robotic
does it
to me,
you?
Yeah.
See, I didn't get that. I don't know. It's kind of cool.
All right, cool, man.
All right, so since we're on the Batman Superman tip of things, let's go ahead and talk about something.
Let's stop saying Superman tip. You said that with Star Wars, and it took a lot of strength for me not to make a dick joke, so stop saying it.
Okay, I can do that.
All right.
So since we're on Batman and Superman's dick, let's go ahead and talk about something we literally just saw 30 seconds before we started recording.
Yeah, my wife broke some nerd news to us.
That's crazy.
I'm embarrassed.
I told her it was fake.
Yeah.
Anyways, what we're just talking about is the first official picture of Jared Leto as the Joker in the Suicide Squad movie that comes out in the fall.
You mean Jared Leto?
No, Jared Leto. in the fall or winter, I can't remember the actual release date of 2016. They're filming it now, and they've kind of teased it for a little bit. But yeah, your wife Chrissy goes, "Oh my gosh, look at this picture of the Joker," and she kind of showed it on her iPad. I'm like, "Oh, that's fake. That's not real. Did you find that on Facebook or something?" She's like, "Oh no, this person posted it." I'm like, all right. Let me check a credible source for this. And it turns out it's a real picture. All right. Yep. So, I mean, I'm sure by the time we post this, almost everybody's seen it. It's not going to be anything surprising, but it's basically, it almost looks like the Joker we kind of know and love a little bit. His skin's not as pale as we're used to, and oh yeah, he's covered in tattoos and has
got a sweet grill.
Yeah, he's got a grill and a purple glove, and it's kind of weird. Man, I really don't like it.
Oh, really?
It's okay. I like it except for the tattoos. If he didn't have the tattoos, I'd be into it. He literally has the word "damaged" tattooed on his forehead.
Yep, that is true.
And he has a teardrop.
He's probably killed a man.
And he also has a jester on one side of his chest and a bunch of ha-has on the other side.
Yeah, I saw the same picture.
And a grin on his right forearm. And a bunch of shit we can't see. It's something, man. What do you think?
I don't know. It's a lot to take in. It's different.
It'd be different. I mean, you can't really... I remember whenever they released the first picture of Heath Ledger, people were pissed because it was makeup. You could tell it was makeup, and it wasn't because his skin was bleached. And look how that turned out. Like, it's not so much what he looks like, it's how he's going to be portrayed. So I have a lot of trust in Jared Leto as an actor, and I'm going to refrain from getting too bent out of shape about it. I don't agree with some of the choices they made, but if he knocks it out of the park, then he knocks it out of the park, and it's all good. And hopefully he's not shirtless most of the movie. Hopefully don't have to see something.
I don't know. I think you enjoyed describing his tattoos a little too much.
Right above his really nice pec.
All right.
So let's get back onto the Marvel side of things for a second and talk a little bit of Spider-Man. We have our list of actors narrowed down for who could possibly be playing Peter Parker next summer in Civil War. And I'll just go through them really quick. We got Nat Wolff from The Fault in Our Stars. Asa, I don't know how to pronounce it, Butterfield, but he's the guy from Hugo and Ender's Game. Tom Holland from The Impossible. Timothy Chalamet from Interstellar. And Liam James, from The Way Back. So, very, very young route they're going.
Yep.
All these guys are really young. So, do you have a preference out of these folks?
Liam James. If you follow us on Facebook or Twitter or anything, I posted that he would be my choice. Out of those particular actors, he would be my choice.
I would say either him or I'd be okay with Asa Butterfield.
Just me loving Ender's Game, the books.
Yeah.
I'd rather him just stick with that. I'm not sure if they're planning on doing sequels or not. I'd really enjoy that. I think Ender's Game had its problems, but I'd really like to see them try to make that franchise. So hopefully he doesn't get it in that, because I don't think he could balance two different franchises.
I really appreciate how young they're going, though. I mean,
for sure.
They said it from the beginning, like, we're going young, but until you get the list of names, you don't necessarily believe them, because they said the same thing with Andrew Garfield, and he was like almost 30 years old when he got cast.
Yeah.
So I definitely respect that.
Bummed that Taron Egerton didn't get on that short list. We talked about that with our Kingsman review. He seemed like a perfect choice for that. Well, maybe I don't know how old he is, but maybe he's a little too old for the part.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm sure that's what it is. I think that he would have been awesome. He was awesome in Kingsman.
Yeah.
Which we reviewed on the podcast if you want to check that out. But he would have been great, but like you said, too old, I guess. All right, man. You ready to move on?
Yep.
Staying on the Spider-Man side of things.
Yep.
There was also announced that Sony is doing a animated feature.
Yep.
and it will be, I guess, standalone from all the other movies, obviously. But the exciting part is that it's going to be written and I believe produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
I didn't know they were writing it. I thought they were just producing it.
Are they just producing it? I thought that it says they'll write the treatment. So
okay,
they're
cool.
Not gonna,
they're going to write the story, yeah, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've been in a part of so many good projects that makes me excited. And I mean, I love animated movies for the most part, you know, if it has a great story. So I'm all in. You can't have too much Spider-Man. So
yeah, for sure.
Unless you do what Sony was going to do like a year and a half ago and have like a Sinister Six movie, then that's just a little too much, but
yeah, they have not done a project that I haven't enjoyed. So I can't imagine them screwing this up too much.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I'm curious to see what route they go with it, since there's going to be live action stuff that coincides with it. Well, it coincides with it, but they don't interweave. So
yeah,
we'll see. All right. We'll just keep going on. This next bit was just announced this morning as well. In 2017, we're going to get a Marvel game from Telltale Games, who did the Walking Dead games.
Yep.
And, what else? There's something else big they did, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. I want to say it was maybe The Wolf Among Us. I could be wrong. But yeah, The Wolf Among Us. And did you play either of the Walking Dead games, by the way?
Nope.
I played the first one, and it's really fun. It's not anything too intricate, but it's a fun, simple game, and I'm kind of curious what they're going to do with a Marvel game. But there's endless possibilities there to have like a really cool open-ended game in this universe. So I'm really looking forward to this quite a bit. That's the one thing that we don't really have, is a really thorough, fun Marvel game.
Yeah.
Like you have the Ultimate Alliance games. Did you ever play any of those?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Those were okay. I didn't like them that much. Did you?
They were all right. They were essentially X-Men Legends with all of the Marvel characters. So it was all right. I enjoyed them for what they were, but they weren't anything special.
Yeah, I mean, you have those games, and then you have the Disney Infinity stuff, which is basically Skylanders with Disney characters, and they also have the Marvel characters, which is nothing that I have much experience with. So it's cool that they partnered with a pretty credible game developer to bring something new out. So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So one more nerd news story. Like I said, it was a lot. And this is probably like the most underwhelming of all of them. It has to do with the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Last time we recorded, we talked about Stephen Amell being cast as Casey Jones. Well, Tyler Perry has been cast in the next Ninja Turtles movie as Baxter Stockman.
Yeah.
A character I don't know much.
How dare you?
I don't know much about this character, except for the article says he might turn into a mutant fly.
Yep. That happens.
You're the resident TMNT man. I mean, I love him, but you know more than I do, so please lay it on me. What is up with this character?
Yeah, he's a scientist, and eventually in the cartoons he does become a fly. And It doesn't, I don't know, as a kid it didn't sound as ridiculous as it sounded just as I said it. But I mean, he's a pretty big character in the first animated series. So
I'm surprised I don't remember him then. I watched
I'm surprised that you don't remember it.
I watched it when I was really young, and it didn't last too much longer into my childhood, and I don't know if maybe that's why, but I used to watch the shit out of that show.
Yeah.
It's just something I never revisited. Maybe that's why.
Yeah. But as far as Tyler Perry's concerned, this is terrible casting.
They should have cast Jeff Goldblum.
Really?
Yeah, he was in The Fly.
No, I got it. Okay. Anyways, just shut up. No, he's not a good actor. Like, I respect, well, respect is a strong word. I appreciate that he kind of built this whole empire for himself. And he's a smart producer. He knows what his fans want, but he is not a good actor. There's a difference between being a smart producer and being a good actor, and he's not a good actor. I mean, people kind of praised him for the little he was in Gone Girl, but I wasn't even impressed with that.
But Pat, he's a man, and he plays a woman in a lot of his movies, and that's a pretty good range.
Sure.
So I'm sure he can play a fly.
No, this is horrible casting, but I'm excited that they're bringing the character in. I think that the first one, and we reviewed it a while back when it first came out, and I feel like it got a lot of shit when it first came out, but I really enjoyed it. I felt like it had the heart of the original cartoon.
I enjoyed it too. I think we both gave it like a 3 or 3.5, which is
something like that.
A pretty solid rating. It turns out that this next one, I don't know, this next one, they're cramming a lot in. You got Casey Jones, you got Bebop, you got Rocksteady, now you got this guy. It sounds
You
like
already forgot his name, haven't you?
Baxter Stockman.
Yep.
But yeah, it seems like it's going to be a lot, and they might suffer from the sequel.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to say here. I'm really tired. Like the things.
No, it's cool, man. I got you.
A lot of sequels.
Yeah, for sure. You're just kind of overcrowding. Yeah, for sure.
All right. You ready for our main topic? Yeah, because that's it for nerd news.
All right, cool. Like we mentioned before, we are going to do a top 5 summer movie preview. The 5 movies that Tyler and I are really looking forward to this summer. I believe we haven't discussed this. I'm sure that there's going to be a couple of movies that overlap. But if you are a longtime listener, you know that we did this last year. Like Tyler said, it was one of his favorite episodes that we did. And because there's so many movies that come out in the summer, and it seems like the summer movie season starts earlier and earlier, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to look up when the summer actually starts, technically, and when it ends. And I am only going to pick movies that fall within those dates. So I did that as this year as well. Oh. So the summer starts. Tyler's already shaking his head. Summer starts June 21st and ends.
You cut out like half the summer movie season by doing
They're not summer movies then. They're not being released during the summer. So anyways. And it ends September 22nd. So I only picked movies that went from June 21st to September 22nd.
We might not have as much overlap as you think then, man. I don't know.
All right. So I think we've explained it enough. Tyler, what is your number 5?
Just to clarify, I'm not following these stupid, these stupid dates. I'm just kind of setting my own parameters. So number 5, I chose Mad Max.
Okay, cool.
Which will not be on your list because it does not fall into your
spoiler alert
list of dates. But I was I wouldn't say I was a big fan of the Mel Gibson Mad Max movies, but they're movies I enjoyed watching with my friends in high school. That's when I first saw them. Yeah. And they're fun. Road Warrior's fun, and Thunderdome. Me and my friends got a kick out of that, watching that. And the trailer for this movie, I think there's 2 trailers released. I've just seen the first one though. It's crazy, and it looks just high octane and fun. And I mean, you have a great cast with Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy and Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid cast. I like George Miller's stuff for the most part. So I threw it in there at number 5. It's one of those few movies that, some of my buddies will actually go see with me in theaters. They don't like to go to the movie theater very often, but they've said that this is a movie they'll go see. So that makes me kind of even more excited for it. So I think it'd be a good theater experience this summer. It's going to be a good popcorn movie for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to this movie as well. It's one of those things that it's kind of a relief for me because it is a huge movie and I think it looks awesome, but I have nothing invested in the franchise.
Yep. Good.
So I can kind of rest easy when I go see it. I don't have to worry about it. There's a couple of these other movies that we're going to talk about, I have invested in the franchise.
So you're stressed about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh shit, what if this isn't good?
Oh my God, you have no idea when they remade Planet of the Apes. I was flipping out. I was really stressed out about it. But this franchise, like you said, the movies are cool.
Yeah.
But I don't really care.
If Mad Max sucks, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Exactly.
Like, well, that movie sucked, moving on.
Exactly.
So, but if it's great, then awesome. It's a surprise and it's fun. It's a fun watch. So
for sure,
I'm looking forward to it quite a bit.
Yep.
All right. Your number 5?
My number 5 is a franchise I'm kind of invested in. It's Terminator Genesis. It's released July 1st. I'm guessing by Tyler's laugh that this is not going to make his list.
Spoilers.
Huge fan of the franchise. Really, when I say the franchise, I mean the first 2 films. The third film, as far as I'm concerned, never happened. And Salvation is a solid movie. I wouldn't necessarily say
it gets a lot of shit that it shouldn't get.
Yeah. I thought you were saying the movie itself.
No, people give that movie a lot of shit, and it's not that bad.
No, I thought it was a solid movie. This particular movie, I'm a little bit nervous about. I'm not a huge fan of time travel, and it seems like there's a ton of time travel. And not just that, but it seems like they're retconning a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And just kind of rebooting it. And I never really like when they do that, because what if it sucks? Like, what if it comes out and it's bad? And I guess you get that with any movie, but are you just going to reboot it again in a couple of years? Are you going to finally let it die? I mean, they're just taking such a huge risk by rebooting it and kind of retconning the whole franchise that what if it doesn't jumpstart the franchise? What if this is the last Terminator movie we see and you fuck this all up? So I'm a little bit nervous about that. I am pretty indifferent to Arnold Schwarzenegger being in it. I think his excuse for being in it is really stupid. The fact that he's still the same Terminator and that he has human skin, so his human skin would age, but he's still alive. It's dumb. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse for him to be in it. And I think that's stupid. I am not a fan of, what's his name? Jay Courtney. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Jay.
I think he's basically the new Sam Worthington. He just kind of gets himself in all these big franchises, but he's not a good actor. And hopefully he just kind of fades away like Sam Worthington.
He doesn't have an avatar to fall back on.
No, he does not. I mean, A Good Day to Die Hard was going to be bad no matter what.
Yeah.
But he certainly didn't help it.
Oh no, he's terrible in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't really in Jack Reacher. Not that that's a huge franchise or anything. He wasn't necessarily in that much, but he's just not a very good actor. And so I'm not a fan of him being in it. I am, however, a pretty big fan of Jason Clarke. I think he did a phenomenal job in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I've watched all the special features, and to find out that a lot of the scenes that he had to act in where he was acting to nobody is just even more impressive to me.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this movie is good and kind of reinvents the franchise, and hopefully he can kind of be a mainstay in the coming movies.
Yeah, I like him a lot, and I also like Emilia Clarke a lot, who's in it as well. And honestly, I would be really pumped for this movie if Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't in it. Like all the shit with him and the trailers, all of his dumb, dopey lines, and it's just, it makes it really cheesy. And, you know, some of this stuff looks cool, and then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger standing in the same scene where cool shit's happening, saying his dumb lines that we've heard 4 times or however many times now. And it's just makes me cringe.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, like, you know he's going to say all of his big lines, and it's just like, oh, he said it. that's a thing that he said in the other movie.
We're going to high five in the movie theater.
No, that's not going to happen.
He's going to be back.
It's going to be silly. I'm going to probably cringe every time he says one.
Have you seen the most recent trailer for this movie?
Nope.
Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Not that it's terrible or anything, but it gives away everything.
Oh, really?
It's bad. This movie, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but do yourself a favor and avoid it, because there's, like, I guess a bit of a twist in the way things play out, and it's just, they lay it all out there on Front Street. There's going to be no surprises for me whenever I see it, which is going to suck.
Then I will definitely avoid it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. What's your number 4?
Number 4 is Ant-Man.
Oh, yeah, we're going to overlap.
So I haven't seen the newest trailer they just released a new trailer for this movie too, and I haven't seen it. I've only seen the first teaser trailer. And I remember whenever I watched it, my wife watched it with me, and she laughed. She literally laughed at this trailer because she thought it was so crazy. And I mean, it's a guy who has a suit that he can shrink his size. So, I mean, it is a little bit out there for the average moviegoer and the average person that's a fan of Marvel just from the movies like she is.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for it though. I'm a little bit bummed that Edgar Wright's not attached to it like he was, and he didn't direct it or anything, but it's a Marvel movie. I love these movies. I love this universe they're building. We talk about it each time we're recording one way or another, and it's something that I'm going to be excited for, even if I think it looks like crap, which I don't. But either way, it's going to be a movie that I'm really looking forward to. So indeed, I am looking forward to Ant-Man.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from this one because it's going to make my list later.
All right,
Spoiler
cool.
alert. So I would just go ahead and go with my number 4, which is the man from UNCLE.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You're really grasping, man.
Then you're not going to like my number 3. But anyways, this is going to be released on August 14th. It's based on a TV show from the 60s. It's set in the Cold War, which I have a bachelor's degree in history. I love the Cold War. I think it's a very fascinating point in history, and it's that perfect setting for an old-fashioned spy movie. And I mentioned during a Kingsman review that the beginning of Kingsman reminded me of if Guy Ritchie was going to do a spy movie. Turns out Guy Ritchie is doing a spy movie, this movie. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. He's one of my favorite directors. The last Sherlock Holmes movie wasn't that great, and I wasn't a huge fan of Rock and Roller, but for the most part, I really enjoy his movies. And so I'm definitely looking forward to this movie. What's his name? Armie Hammer?
Yeah.
Is in it as well, and he was great in The Social Network. He was actually in an episode of Arrested Development, but if you blink, you miss him. But I'm not a huge
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his name. It's late. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of him. I mean, the Man of Steel wasn't that great, but yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to this movie, mostly because of Guy Ritchie.
I'm gonna see it, and I would say that I'm looking forward to it. But it did not make my honorable mentions because I did not limit myself to a dumb range of dates.
Okay.
All right. So my number 3 is Jurassic World.
Yep.
So this is a movie.
This is a movie.
It's coming out in the summer. And it has Chris Pratt.
It's not. Because it's not on my list.
I mean, yeah. All right. What can you say about Jurassic World? It's a Jurassic Park movie, and who doesn't like Jurassic Park, even though the sequels have notoriously not been great. I mean, it has Chris Pratt in it, and it has new dinosaurs, and it's going to be a fun time. And whether or not I give it a high rating or a not so high rating when we review it on the podcast, it's something that I'm going to look forward to either way, just to hear the theme song, if anything.
Yeah, for sure. I almost said I love this franchise. I don't love this franchise. I love the first movie. Yeah. It is fantastic. I don't love it as much as Jake loves it. That's kind of an inside joke.
Hey, Jake.
Yeah. Hey, Jake. Sorry about that. The second and third movie, I don't think they're as bad as everybody says they are. They certainly don't stack up to the first movie, but I don't think they deserve the shit that they get. The problem with me is logically it doesn't make sense after the first movie why anybody would ever go back or why they would ever think that this was a good idea. I know that they would have made a ton of money, but still it just doesn't seem like it'd be worth it. Yeah.
So what do you feel about Jurassic World? Hey, they mastered the park. Apparently they didn't master the park because shit goes haywire.
Because there wouldn't be a movie if they did.
But they've mastered the park for a period of time. So, I mean, not many people were on the island or escaped from the island when this happened. So you'd think people were just oh, you're crazy. We're going to fucking do this.
It just, for me, it would have to be $10,000 a ticket to even make it financially worth it. Because all the technology and all of these other things that they would have to go in to making the park and making it safe or somewhat safe. It just seems like financially it wouldn't make any sense. You would literally have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars just for a day. I don't know.
I will say with this movie, I am hesitant about them making their own dinosaur.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because that kind of defeats the purpose of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And then I'm also hesitant about trained velociraptors.
Yeah.
So I definitely have my reservations about this movie, but in the end, I'm excited to see it. So that's why it's number 3 on my list. We'll see.
And we will definitely be reviewing it on the podcast.
Yep, can't wait.
Yep.
What's your number 3?
I'm not looking forward to your reaction.
Oh, God.
My number 3 is Minions.
You're fucking kidding me.
It's written on the paper, man. It's released. It's going to be released. We're going to review that too.
We're not reviewing Minions.
It's on our schedule, man.
Oh shit, we're going weekly next week.
Yeah,
we got to start
for sure
having time fillers.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be a time filler because it's going to be awesome. Anyways,
I hope so. It's number 3 on your list.
July 10th. Let me get out the fucking date, man. July 10th. Tyler and I are both big animated feature film fans. We do the stop laughing. I can't. For our listeners, I am actually legitimately excited for this movie. I do like the Despicable Me franchise. I had this whole thing that I planned on saying, but it's ruined now because Tyler won't stop laughing at me. I am a little bit nervous because the Minion thing, it is funny. I do think they're good side characters for the Despicable Me franchise, but Gru kind of grounds the whole movies. So I'm a little bit nervous for them to carry their own movie. So there, Tyler, go. Say your stupid joke.
I thought that both of the Despicable Me movies were good. And I think you're right. You need a strong human character. And I haven't seen the trailers for this movie, but I do know that Sandra Bullock is voicing the human character, correct?
As far as I know, yeah.
Have you seen a trailer for this movie?
I have.
I would hope so since it's number 3 on your list. But does it look funny?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody loves the Minions. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be funny parts, and I'm planning on seeing it. That's not on my list.
It doesn't sound like a glowing endorsement.
It's not on my honorable mentions, but it is a movie I will see this summer. I will give you that.
Okay, cool.
And apparently we're reviewing it, so look out for that.
It's on the schedule. You can't change the schedule. All right, so what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Inside Out, which is
cool.
The Pixar movie that's coming out this summer. I think it looks awesome.
It does.
The trailers for this movie have been great. They've been funny, and it looks like it's going to be, we went a year without a Pixar movie. Yep. And you kind of feel it. There was a kind of a gap last year, and that's what it was not having a Pixar movie. And I don't know. There's not much else to say about it. I think that it's going to be their kind of redemption. I guess not everybody loved Monsters University as much as I did, and that was their, I believe, last Pixar movie, if I'm not mistaken, was Monsters University.
Sounds right.
Correct me if I'm wrong right now.
Unless it's Brave, I thought.
No, unless it was another sequel. Was there a sequel after Monsters University? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but, it wasn't as well received as I thought it should have been, but this is an original concept, and they really strive at those. So I'm really looking forward to it.
It's such a unique idea, and it sounds really, really cool. It reminds me of how I felt when I first heard about the idea behind Toy Story.
Oh yeah.
It's just, of course you could do that. Like, of course that's an awesome idea, and that's going to work. And I just can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome.
No, I'm really looking forward to it. So, okay. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Fantastic Four.
Okay.
It's going to be released on August 7th. We'll be reviewing this one as well.
Oh, I figured that.
Yep. Obviously.
Minions was a surprise. It's not.
Obviously, Tyler and I are huge comic book fans. If you hadn't gathered that already, I don't know why you're still listening. I love the Fantastic Four. I'm kind of bummed that their comic book is ending. I think it's been a solid run so far. I'm a little bit behind, but I'm catching up so far. I love the family dynamic. Obviously, Ben not wanting this whole rock creature being the thing. I think it brings an interesting aspect to the team. Obviously, the previous films shit to bed. It was really bad.
Putting it nicely.
Yeah. So I was a little bit nervous. I didn't think that this particular franchise, after the first 2 movies, even though I thought Silver Surfer was definitely a step up from the first movie, but it wasn't necessarily a good movie by any means. So I just didn't think that this franchise translated well to feature films. But I think they nailed the cast and crew. I'm a big Miles Teller fan. I love Michael B. Jordan. I think the director, even though I'm not a huge Chronicle fan, I think he is going to bring an interesting twist to the franchise. There's a lot of X-Men alum as far as the producers and writers and what. I think Matthew Vaughn is even producing this film, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's enough good creative people behind it. And so far the trailer looks awesome. Everything that I've seen about this movie makes me more and more excited. It reminded me a lot of how I felt about Guardians.
Yeah.
Even though I was more excited about Guardians when I first heard about it than the Fantastic Four, the more I heard about the Guardians, the more I liked, and it's kind of following that same path. The more I hear about this movie, the more I like it. So I'm definitely really looking forward to it.
I agree. I'm looking forward to this as well. I have my reservations about it, but the cast and the crew behind it really kind of ease some of my worries. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm definitely looking forward to it as well.
All right. So what is your number one?
I really didn't want to make this movie my number one because it comes out next week and then it's just like, oh, well, now what?
Yeah.
But it's Avengers Age of Ultron. Yeah, I'm so pumped for this movie. And maybe that's why it's my number one, is because I know I get to see it next week and I'm super pumped for it. But
it'll be officially the first time we go weekly.
Yeah.
Even though technically wouldn't this episode be the first time?
I guess technically this is our foray into being weekly. But obviously, I mean, we're both really looking forward to it. We've been talking about it for a year now.
Well, it's not my number one.
Well, it can't be. But, I mean, we already have our plans to see it. We have our plans to review it. It's gonna be a good time. And the reviews are coming out and I haven't read any, but from what I understand, they've been mixed to mostly positive.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just don't think there's any way that you don't sit and enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there'd be issues with story or, cramming all these characters into one movie, but in the end, it's going to be a fun movie to watch and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And Tyler, I mean, obviously this is the second episode we've done with this particular topic and Tyler gives me shit. He busts my balls about me breaking it down and being so technical about it. But this is another reason why I did it that way, is because we get to talk about different movies, because Age of Ultron, not to knock your list, but it's such the obvious choice.
Oh yeah.
That it would just be 5 of the same movies that we got to talk about. So that's another reason why I do my list the way that I do, is that we got to talk about, Minions mostly. I really, really wanted to talk about Minions. No, I mean, obviously this movie is just going to print money. It's going to be ridiculous.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's going to be great. I mean, there's no way, like you said, I'm going to watch this movie and be like, nah, I'm done with the Marvel franchise. It's done. It's dead. I mean, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. I hate that it's like the first movie out of the gate though. It's like everything's going to seem downhill from there.
Probably.
All right, man. What's your number one?
Well, spoiler alert, process of elimination. I mentioned that Ant-Man made my list. And my number one is Ant-Man. July 17th. Like I talked about with the Fantastic Four, the more I see or hear about this movie, the more I like. It didn't start off great. Edgar Wright leaving was a big bummer. I'm a big fan of his. And then the first trailer was kind of silly. I wasn't a huge fan of that. But since then, the more I hear about it, the more I like. Just recently they announced that Edgar Wright was still going to have a writing credit. So they're still using his basic story. Obviously they made some changes to the script in general, but for the most part, he still is considered the writer of the story. So I'm looking forward to that. And Josh Whedon just recently came out and said that was the best script that Marvel ever had, and certainly take his word for it. I respect his opinion, obviously. So, I'm excited to see it. The comic that just recently got released, I talked about it, a few episodes ago. I think that the way Marvel's been going, we mentioned the Daredevil and Defenders TV shows, how they're all coming into this whole universe. And the comics aren't necessarily in that universe, but I just don't see Marvel being the smart company that they are, coming out with this comic so soon or so close to the movie being released that it's not going to not necessarily affect the movie, but they're going to put out a comic book that is somewhat close to the Ant-Man we're going to see in the movie.
Yeah.
And I really like the comic book. So I think that I'm going to really enjoy this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I already talked about it. I really am enjoying it quite a bit. I actually read this quote from Paul Rudd the other day that said it was probably a good thing that Edgar Wright left, because I guess what his holdout was, he didn't want to make the changes to the script that Marvel wanted to kind of connect it to the greater cinematic universe. And Paul Rudd is glad, I guess, to be connected to the rest of the movies, probably because he's going to keep getting a paycheck for every one of these movies that he appears in. I think
Paul Rudd gets a writing credit as well.
He does.
Yeah.
And the rumor out there is he's going to be in Civil War. So they're throwing Scott Lang right into the mix of things. So I'm really looking forward to it, especially if it has like the basics, the soul of the movie that Edgar Wright was trying to make. I'm sure it's good.
For sure. So that's about it, I guess. You did mention a couple honorable mentions if you want to just kind of shoot those off rapid fire.
Tomorrowland.
Yep.
Vacation. Fantastic Four. Masterminds. Terminator. And Trainwreck.
Oh, yeah. I don't have any honorable mentions.
That's fine. I mean, I think you listed every single movie that comes out in the time period you limited it down to.
Maybe.
All right, man. You ready for our next and final segment?
Yeah. Our last segment every episode is Tyler and I kind of ask each other what our favorite blank is. I think that's a very popular question among nerds. We just kind of alternate each episode. This week is my week, so I'm going to ask the question, and we're going to review Age of Ultron, which will be the official end of Phase 2, Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm going to ask you, Tyler, what is your favorite Phase 2 Marvel movie? To give you time to think about it, I will give you my answer. And for me, there's really two obvious choices. So I'm going to name mine, and I'm assuming that you're going to say the other one. The obvious choice for me, and since I'm asking the question, I'm the one that gets to bring it up, is Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, that movie is just fantastic. It's just great. It's probably one of my favorite movies of last year. I think it was number 2 on my list when we did our top 10 favorite movies of 2014 with Matt Hurt from The Obsessive Viewer. I mean, what can I say about that movie that we haven't already said? It's just fantastic.
Oh, so you're not going to try to say anything we haven't already said?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to be repeating things that we've already talked about.
You mentioned that it was number 2 on your top 10. Well, it was number 1 on my top 10.
Yeah.
So while that's my obvious answer, I obviously can't say it because that would be boring. So
yeah, for sure.
I will go with the other obvious answer, which is Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
And the thing about saying that is I don't feel slighted that I don't get to say Guardians of the Galaxy, because Winter Soldier is such a fantastic movie. I really respect it and respect what it did to the Marvel Universe. It took a lot of chances. I mean, you put these directors into the directing chair that didn't have a ton of experience, and the Russo brothers, and you have this character that, you know, I really enjoyed the first Avenger, Captain America, but there's a lot of people out there that didn't. So you have this character that's, you know, trying to rebound a little bit from their first solo outing, and you take the entire aspect of S.H.I.E.L.D. and you shake it up and destroy it. And it did a lot of crazy things, and it paid off. It was an excellent movie. So that's what I'll go with.
For sure. And that was the one I was hoping that you would say, yeah.
Hopefully this time next week we're saying Age of Ultron, but I don't know that it's going to be able to top Guardians.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right. So I think that's about it. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at The Nerds Podcast. Definitely subscribe to our new YouTube channel. That's a new one that I can say now. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Nerds Podcast. Email us, the nerd you're looking for @gmail.com. We'd love to hear what your favorite Phase 2 Marvel movie is. So definitely email us there. Or you could also use the Contact the Nerds form on our website, thenerdspodcast.com, where I review a bunch of different stuff. Just kind of use that as our general musings. You can also find all of the links to the stories that we talk about on Nerd News. Vote for us for Podcast of the Month at podcastland.com. If you're on Google Plus, we're on there as well. So definitely like us there. Rate, review, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, all the good podcasting directories. I think that's about it, right?
That is about it.
Oh, check us out at Indie PopCon. We're already getting stuff ready. We got our sweet new business cards. So we're definitely looking forward to that. So check us out there.
All right, man. Awesome. I think we're good to go.
For Patrick Koo,
Tyler Hunt.
We are the nerds you're looking for. Take it easy, guys.
See ya. It was funny. It's like, it's TJ Miller's character. He's like, I will jerk off every guy in this theater if it gets us whatever. And they start like talking about how mathematically it's impossible to jerk off every guy in the theater. He's like, well, no, what if I do like 2 in each hand, tip to tip? So 4 guys at a time. And they start talking. It's just like this whole long thing. It's hilarious.
I'm just going to edit it. So I just, all you hear is, I will jerk off everyone.